All right, it looks like everyone's here. Good morning, everyone. Oh, you can do better than that. Good morning, everyone. Yay! All right. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Amanda Whitener, and I'm so happy to welcome you all to our fifth Women in Science Speak panel event. Earlier this week was on February 11th, so just a couple of days ago, was International Day of Women and Girls in Science. So one of the reasons that we're here today, as you may or may not know, International Day of Women and Girls in Science is a designated day by the United Nations to to help support women achieving their equal access and participation in science. Really one of the main reasons that we're here today. So thank you all for choosing to spend your morning with us. It means so much. Today we're here at the lovely Hood College, but we're also being broadcast to a virtual audience. So say hello to our folks online. Folks online, if you have questions during the event, there's a chat moderator. Reach out to the chat and they'll support you during the event. But celebrating International Day of Women and Girls in Science, it's also important to note that today, February 13th, is also designated a Self-Love Day. So all about supporting yourself, self-care, honoring yourself, and personal wellness. And it's also Crab Rangoon Day. So I don't know about you, but later on today, I'll celebrate self-love with some Crab Rangoon. How does that sound? Excellent. So, take care of yourself. But I think seriously, having this event in celebration of International Day of Women and Girls in Science, even though it's just a day on a calendar, it really symbolizes a lot for us. Most of us are in the audience here are, women, identify as women, but for those of you who are men or identify as men, thank you for being here to support science and women in science. It's super important. And in our own small way, I think as part of this event, we're all here to uplift women in STEM and acknowledge that our contributions are significant and we should celebrate that. So give yourselves a round of applause for being here. And even though there's a lot of data out there that the gender gap in science is really big, it's very significant, especially in technology, engineering, and math, but that shouldn't discourage us from encouraging others to support that path, pursue their dreams, pursue their talents, and really find a way to do the things that you love, right? So, think about how we pick a journey, persist in that journey, find a path that makes you happy, and surround yourselves with people who support you, mentors who support your path and can help you continue to build those networks, build those pathways so that you are not alone in this journey. So I'm so excited to introduce this panel in just a second, but I want to get a pulse check from here, in the room. I want to know who is here. So how many of you here with a raise a hand or an applause are a high school student? Awesome. Thank you for being here. How many of you are college students? Awesome. Thank you for being here. How many of you are working STEM professionals? Awesome. Thanks for being here. And educators. Who are educators in the room? Fantastic. So a really great representation of all the areas that touch STEM, believe in STEM, support our women and other folks in STEM as a career. So well, you all and this panel right here are the main reasons we're here today. I'm so excited. The panel we've assembled is really a way for us to explore different areas of STEM. You'll hear from these accomplished women who are doing just phenomenal work. They'll share their perspectives on their careers in science, allyship in science, mentorship, and also achieving their goals through self-advocacy. So for folks who are here in person, you will have a chance to chat with our panelists at the end. So if you don't get a chance to get your question answered, feel free to seek them out during the networking portion of our day today. So sharing these perspectives is super important, but before I wrap up, I want to share and shout out some of the sponsors of our event today. Woman to Woman Mentoring, which is me, right, and my team here today. Thank you. We're a Frederick County nonprofit really focused on providing women with guidance, support, and community connections through our mentoring programs. We offer 3 different programs and really want women to find opportunities to learn about themselves, grow, and build those connections which can continue to support them throughout their lifetime and their careers. Our host, Hood College, thank you. Hood College is a co-ed independent liberal arts college, and they integrate liberal arts and professions. They provide an education that empowers students to use their hearts, minds, and hands to meet personal, professional, and global challenges to lead purposeful lives of responsibility, leadership, service, and civic engagement. So we're so excited to be here. And also partnering with us is the Frederick National Laboratory for Cancer Research. So thank you for being here. They're the only U.S. national lab wholly focused on research, technology, and collaboration in the biomedical sciences, and is one of 42 federally funded research and development centers. The Frederick National Lab is sponsored by the National Cancer Institute and is currently operated by Leidos Biomedical Research. So the team that worked together to put this event together is an amazing group of powerhouse women. So let's give them all a round of applause before we kick it off. And also warming you up to introduce you to Ethan Dimitrovsky, who's the laboratory director of the Frederick National Lab for Cancer Research. So welcome, Ethan.
What an exciting day. This is the 5th time we've come together in what I would like to say is a labor of love, that we've worked so closely with Women to Women Mentoring. Thank you, Amanda Whitener, and with Hood College. Thank you, President. Thank you so much for being here, and really with a distinguished panel of speakers. I'm here today for 2 reasons. One's personal, one's professional. So first, the personal. I happen to be the father of 4 children, 1 son, 3 daughters. I want my 3 daughters to have all of the opportunities that my son has. Now, if I might tell you why I'm here professionally, science has shown that the more inclusive a scientific team is, the more productive it is. I think there's something that all of us can agree with. We don't have a paucity of problems that we have to solve in our society. Science is a tool to solve those problems. And that's why we're here today with a distinguished panel of speakers who I hope we all can listen to, learn from, and maybe even model. I suspect they didn't have a direct path from where they are today, from where they began, perhaps in their high school years. And maybe you'll share some of the challenges that you faced and how you've navigated through them. But as we listen to their stories, there's much we can learn. And so for me, it's just such a pleasure to be here. Let me add my voice to Amanda's to say thank you to all of the people who are here today, both in person, virtually, and especially for those who organized this meeting. So let's give them another round of applause. And so let me welcome back to the podium Amanda Whitener, who will introduce our moderator, the president of Hood College, Dr. Debbie Ricker. Thank you.
Awesome. So I do want to introduce our moderator for our panel today, and I will let her introduce herself because she has a lot of amazing things to talk about as part of our event today. So without further ado, I will introduce Dr. Debbie Ricker, president of Hood College.
Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate that warm introduction, and welcome to Hood College. I couldn't be prouder to host all of you here today. I want to give a shout out to the students joining us in celebration of the International Day of Women and Girls in Science, those joining us in person here at Hood, and those of us participating virtually. It's inspiring to see so many of you with a shared curiosity and enthusiasm for careers in science and technology, and to learn from women whose work is shaping those fields. As many of you know, Hood College has a long and proud history of uplifting and educating women. We were founded in 1893 as a women's college in downtown Frederick, and we've been preparing women to lead, to serve, and to shape their communities ever since. That legacy continues today, not just in our classrooms, but in the way we support our students' dreams. with hands-on experiences, real-world connections, and a deep belief in their potential. At Hood, we often talk about educating the whole person with heart and mind and hand. And as a college president and a scientist, I have to say, it's especially meaningful to see women boldly stepping into these roles. I am a scientist by training, having earned my Ph.D. in reproductive biology from the Johns Hopkins University School of Hygiene and Public Health. Like several of the panelists you'll hear from today, my professional journey has not been a straight line, and I've spent most of my life following a zebra. Yes, a zebra. As an undergraduate student studying biology at Mars Hill University, which is a small private liberal arts college not unlike Hood, I was required to complete a senior thesis. I picked a topic that I had grown bored with and went searching for something, anything new. And I stumbled across a photo of a quarter horse mare that had given birth to a genetically pure zebra foal. I knew enough about biology to know that was not normal. And that single image sent me down a path of discovery. I learned that zoos across the country were using assisted reproductive technology, fertilizing genetically pure zebra mare eggs with genetically pure zebra stallion sperm and implanting those embryos into domestic horses as surrogates. And my life changed. I had no idea that was even possible. And when I began to understand what that meant for threatened and endangered species, I was hooked. That curiosity led me to the science of reproduction and development, and specifically assisted reproductive technology. I fell in love with the elegance of it, with the way sperm cells are made and egg cells are made, and how those two cells come together at fertilization, and how every single cell in our body generates from one single cell. I was hooked. It's amazed. The precision of carving 46 chromosomes into 23 and then creating 46 yet again. It was phenomenal. It was just phenomenal. And I was mesmerized. The sheer determination of a single sperm cell to carve its genome in half and build an outboard motor of a tail to swim to an egg. Am I digressing into biology, perhaps? Okay. Back. I'm back. So while sperm may be my favorite cell, that zebra became a symbol of my work. The unexpected question that changed everything. I truly hope each of you have the blessing and the opportunity to find and pursue your own zebra. Finding my zebra taught me two things that still guide me today. Number one, that big ideas often start in small, curious moments. And number two, that students flourish when institutions give them room to explore, experiment, and follow the questions that won't let them go. That belief shapes how we build our programs here at Hood College. And today, as president at Hood, I remain deeply committed to preparing students to lead in the rapidly evolving field of biotechnology. One example of this commitment is the launch of our new Bioscience Research and Education Center, or BREC, which is designed to strengthen the regional talent pipeline by increasing the number of highly skilled science professionals in Maryland. This effort is a collaboration between Hood and our regional industry partners like the Frederick National Laboratory for Cancer Research. We've also launched the innovative immersive training program in synthetic biology and biomanufacturing. Here at Hood, students gain hands-on experience through undergraduate research, lab-based learning, and real-world problem solving, often working alongside faculty on cutting-edge discoveries. As biotechnology continues to evolve, so will Hood, adapting programs, facilities, and partnerships to ensure our students are prepared for the jobs of today and the discoveries of tomorrow. To the students and young professionals here today, your paths may not be linear, and that is not only acceptable, it is an asset, and you should levy it as your superpower. Science thrives on curiosity, persistence, and diverse perspectives, and I encourage you to remain open to where your interests may lead, to seek out mentors and collaborators, and to recognize that your contributions are both needed and valued. The future of science depends on you. Thank you. All right. We are gathered today from here to hear from this accomplished panel of women in STEM fields. And so I would love to ask each of them to offer a brief introduction to you. Let's begin with Sylvia.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Debbie. My name is Sylvia Sanni-Thomas. I grew up in Ghana, West Africa, where I had my elementary through college education and graduated with a degree in biochemistry from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana. For my master's, I attended the University of Maryland College Park for public health. I started working with the Frederick National Lab in 2006 as an entry-level quality control analyst. And currently, I manage quality control testing within the VCMP manufacturing clean room environment and utility systems to ensure compliance with regulatory and in-house standards for clinical vaccine production. I'm married. I have 3 beautiful children, and I'm very excited to be here to share my journey and experiences with you all. And I'm also excited to hear from the panelists. So thanks for having me.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Emma Bowers. I received my biology degree from Shepherd University just down the road, and then came to Hood College and got my master's degree in environmental biology. While I was here at Hood, I took a pollution biology class and was fascinated and got really inspired to study the effects of pollutants on human health. So then I went to UNC Chapel Hill and got my Ph.D. in toxicology. And then completed a postdoctoral research fellowship at Texas A&M in precision medicine. Then I sort of took we're not linear, right? So then I started an entrepreneurial venture where I developed an application system to help scientists make use of their unused data and samples. I'm also a toxicology consultant. And actually, I can say I'm very proud because one of the big fruits of my labors from the past few years has been recently published, where we looked at the effects of jet fuel exposure on human health and exposed personnel, both on the immune system and the respiratory system. So literally that was published yesterday. So I'm super excited about that. And so again, not a linear path. Unfortunately, given all the recent government turmoil, we lost, as a toxicology consultant, a lot of our clients overnight. And so I was part of these big scale layoffs. So now I sort of took a step back and said, do I want to keep consulting? And I was like, I think I need to follow my heart. And I really love teaching and mentoring and research. So I came back to Hood and said, I want to teach. So that's exactly what I'm doing. So this summer, I'm going to be teaching an intro toxicology course, and in this fall, also an epigenetics course. So keep an eye out for those.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erica Pehrsson. I am a bioinformatics analyst with Frederick National Laboratory for Cancer Research, and I support pediatric cancer research at the National Cancer Institute. I'm actually from Northern Virginia. I went to UVA and got my bachelor's in biology, and then went to Washington University in St. Louis and got a PhD in looking at antibiotic resistance in microbial communities in Latin America. I switched gears after that and started doing a postdoc in cancer regulation. And now I'm here and we profile pediatric cancer tumors and their surrounding tissues to better understand the cancer and potentially find ways to treat it and target it. So it's great to be here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Wardah Amir, and I am the proud daughter of immigrants. Because of their hard work, I was able to get a degree in chemical engineering from Texas A&M University. That led me to figure out how can I leverage the humanitarian in my heart and put that degree to good use. And I discovered the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons in The Hague, where now I, till this day, am working in the US Department of State. as a senior consultant in General Dynamics Information Technology to make sure chemicals are not misused as weapons. So now I am the person who, in a nonlinear fashion, went from a technical background into a very policy government space, and am grateful to be here today. My most favorite job, though, is being a mother to my 2-year-old, and I forgot how fun Crayola crayons were. So that's been the best part. Again, happy to be here.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to get to the heart of the questions. But first, let me remind those of you joining us virtually, online, virtual participants, please use the chat function throughout the event so that you can pose your questions to our panelists. If you want to focus on a specific question for a specific panelist, please include their name in your question as well, and we'll follow along with that chat as the conversation continues and address your questions during the Q&A at the end. So let's begin with our questions. We'll start with the first one. Wardah and Emma, will ask the two of you to respond to this one. What is something you did for yourself early in your professional journey that has helped your career?
So the biggest thing I personally did was take a risk. When I got my chemical engineering degree from Texas A&M University, the first thing I did afterwards is head over to do an internship at an international law think tank, and people were saying, "What are you doing?" I ended up finding, that's where I discovered the Chemical Weapons Convention, and that literally changed the trajectory of my life. But what I have personally learned is what's comfortable to you is like, what is your routine every single day? And it takes, I think, leaving that comfort zone to find something new or different. I believe if you want to make change for yourself and find that, you have to leave that comfort zone. And that is literally, for me, it was either trying a different career path, trying a different subject matter entirely. And my master's degree is actually from a School of International Affairs at GW, the Elliott School of International Affairs. I literally went down a policy track afterwards, and that wouldn't have been possible had I not just done something entirely different than what was conventional. And I think what I was trained to do was think of, I'm going to work in oil and gas, put on those goggles, put on the overalls, kind of pursue this engineering degree. But what really has paid off for me is trying different things, and that may take its shape or form. Going outside my comfort zone. As an introvert, it might be difficult to meet people. I think folks who have showed up here today, the networking opportunities that will be possible afterwards is going outside your comfort zone. So I think all of that does have a value that is associated with it, and it could pay off.
So I think what I was going to say is going to echo a lot of that sentiment. I think that, yeah, we're all in our comfort zone, in our pajamas, probably on Zoom, right? That's super comfortable, but that's not really how people work, right? You need to get out there and form those relationships. I was going to say, you are never too young to start going to professional societies, to start to meet people and ask questions. And I can promise you that scientists get so excited when they have young people ask them questions who are like young undergrads, even high school students. And so just sort of doing that builds your network and gets you practice at networking and people's skills. And be bold. Like you said, go out of your comfort zone. I was at Hood. I was in environmental biology. I knew I was really interested in epigenetics. So I just cold emailed this professor at Johns Hopkins, and I was like, I'm really interested in this. I want to do this method. I know nothing about it. Can I come see you and visit your lab? And she was like, sure. But that was a really great experience for me. And I got to meet a new, like, super important person. And it really helped set me out on my career. So yes, go outside of your comfort zone, go to meetings, meet people.
That's such great advice. I've often heard it said, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Excellent advice. Now for our next question, and Sylvia, we'll start with you on this one. How has your education, whether undergraduate or graduate school, influenced your career path?
My education journey has been interesting. So I grew up in Ghana. The education system is very different from here. And even in Ghana, growing up then, the education system was different from present day Ghana. So at the time, you go to elementary school, then you transition into high school and then college. Elementary school in Ghana is primary school, and then you go to secondary school and then university. And the secondary schools are mostly boarding schools. About 80% or more of the secondary schools are boarding schools. So I went to primary, went to secondary school, and then in the third year of secondary school is when you have to select a program that sort of kickstarts your career path. And mind you, we're like 15-year-olds, right? And so there were 3 streams. There were the arts, business, and science. And the arts and business programs were very popular, of course, and science was not, because science is hard. And so, of course, if you leave a 15-year-old to make a choice, they're going to go for the easy ones. So when it came to the science program, the school administration sort of made recommendations with the parents, talked to the parents and made recommendations for students that they thought could get into the science program based on their grades. And so I happened to be recommended for the science program because I had good grades in science, but I was interested in the arts. I loved arts. I love to draw and design. I love languages, history, and all of that. But with the encouragement of my parents, of course, I went into the science program and I did good. I loved biology. I loved reading. And so time to go to the university, I had made up my mind that I was going to be a pharmacist. There was only one pharmacy school in Ghana at the time. And the universities were on strike. The university workers were on strike. The universities had shut down for a while. Long story short, with limited spots and all that was going on, I didn't make it into the pharmacy program. But I got accepted into medical school and biochemistry. And so I had to make a choice. My dad, I know he was rooting for me to go to medical school, so he took me to tour the campus, and I knew within me that that was not what I wanted to be. That wasn't my path. And so ultimately I chose biochemistry. I mean, we taught the medical campus, and just seeing cadavers and all of that, I'm like, no, this is not for me. This is not for me. And so I ultimately chose biochemistry, and I think that set the foundation for my professional path into the biomedical sciences and brought me to where I am today. So that's the story for my undergraduate. Graduate school, that's a whole nother story. We'll keep that for another time or later.
So for me, I can so relate to the whole, your father's push for medical school. I come from a culture that really values you to either be a doctor or an engineer, maybe a lawyer, maybe. But I think I lived my dad's dream of becoming an engineer. And the whole time I was like, is this for me? I knew I was a disgruntled chemical engineer, and I was searching for what is more passionate for me. And I think through engineering school, after making it, I think that's where my question came up, like, I'm going to take some time. I'm not going to go into a master's of chemical engineering, not a Ph.D. And I want to figure out, what do I want to do? And the time that I did take after undergrad, I think, was the most valuable, because that's when I went and did internships to discover what I truly wanted to do. And that's when I moved to the Netherlands and got to participate in an internship at the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. And that's when I kind of just had a chance to discover, what is speaking to me, and where can I best apply my skills? So For graduate school, I did end up discovering the Elliott School of International Affairs, specifically their Security Policy Studies program. And I wanted to apply my technical background to some sort of benefit, to some positive mission. And I wanted to discover how to do that. And I think I found that very niche space in this very niche technical policy space by basically doing a full concentration in chemical weapons policy, biological weapons policy, radiological weapons policy, nuclear weapons policy, to make sure that none of us here have to worry about those things. And that's what I now work at every day. My everyday life is to make sure that none of us, none of you, none of your families ever have to worry about things that I'm worrying about on a day-to-day basis.
So I think the two takeaways that I heard there are, first and foremost, Sylvia, I heard in your response that in an educational journey, loving science is not about abandoning the arts. It's oftentimes when you can do those two things in parallel with one another and in tandem, it's not either or, it's both and. And then the second thing is, much like your experience wanting to go to pharmacy school and then that door being closed to you, sometimes when that door closes, it's painful. And it's powerful, and it leaves an impact on all of us. I think we can all share. We've had those experiences. But boy, when you can take that setback and really think deeply about how you want to harness your power to your passion, how far that can take you. It's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Let's move on to question 3, and this will be for all of our panelists. Erica, I wonder if you could start the response for us and ask you to speak to the students in the audience who may be struggling in their studies. And what obstacles did you face as an undergraduate, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so I think for a lot of undergrads, the biggest challenge they face is the lack of structure associated with being a college student. It's the least structure you'll ever have in your life until you retire. And I went to University of Virginia, and it's a great school, but it's a very big school, and it has a reputation for being kind of a party school. And, you know, I was a biology major and I took a lot of other types of classes. And so I was usually on campus in lab, but if I came home at like 2 p.m. on a Thursday, somebody in my house was watching reality TV, and there was probably somebody partying at that point too. And at this age, you're hardwired to not want to miss out on anything. And so there's always a little voice in the back of your head, even if you know this isn't a good idea, that says, am I the only one not having fun? Am I missing out on something? And so if there isn't structure there, you have to create that for yourself. So you have to say 9 to 5, even if no one wants me somewhere, I have to set this aside as my studying time. And, you know, surround yourself with other people who are doing that also have their eyes on this goal. And also, I loved working. I found that after undergrad, I really prefer being in a collaborative environment where you're responsible to other people for your output and you get to know people on a personal level. So if you have the opportunity to do a work study, I would recommend it. It is really eye-opening. Yeah.
So you just described my total undergrad experience. I could not make my own structure, so I had to move off campus. I got dismal grades the first year or two. But after I got past that, 2 things for anyone who's struggling. Number one, I find that a lot of times students don't know how to study. And a lot of that involves sort of interactive learning where you read something. Okay, so you might read something and think, oh, I know it. And then when you go to reiterate that information on the test, you realize you don't actually know it. There are so many awesome resources now, like Anki cards and like these virtual flashcards that even if you're by yourself, you can use to really make sure that you have that recall. Number 2, I feel like sometimes people are really self-defeating, and I'll share a little personal anecdote, right? I told you in my background about how I came from environmental biology at Hood, and I went to UNC Chapel Hill because I wanted to study toxicology and epigenetics, right? Well, I really didn't have that molecular biology background. So I was like, I'm going to take a genetics course for genetics majors. And then I realized, like after the first lecture, I was in way over my head. Everyone else was talking about these protein-protein interactions. Like they were like, oh yeah, no problem. They had done all this like molecular biology research. I was like, I'm going to die here. Like there's no way I'm going to be able to be okay with these people. Well, we got our first test. It was a take-home test. That doesn't mean it's easy, where we had to analyze these really, really intense papers. I mean, it took me like the whole day. Anyways, long story short, I got one of the highest grades in the class. And do you know why? Because sheer grit and determination. Don't ever think that, oh, I can't do this, I'm not good at it. Like that it's being successful, like being smart is like half of it, right? You just need to be smart enough. Other than that, you just got to work your butt off.
Yeah, it's interesting that we share the same experience. A struggle I had was time management for sure in my freshman year of university. Like I said, I was in a boarding school environment where everything was structured to the T. Right from waking up in the morning, there was a bell, a rising bell, where you wake up, do your chores, go to classes after breakfast, and there was a bell for everything in between. So multiple bells, telling you what to do, signifying, change of class and all of that. And going from that environment to a very free environment in my freshman year, where basically the only thing structured was your lecture times, and that was it. You were just left to figure everything out on your own. And there I was again, away from home, but this time with no structure and no help and no support. And so I had to, and I call it finding my vibe, and which is figure out how and when I study best, because that was a struggle I had. I was in the biochemistry program. It was very hard. There was a lot of reading and projects and all of that. And I had roommates that had different schedules from me. So I had to figure out how to find some structure. And so I tried different things. And in the end, I established a routine where I'll go to bed at a normal time and then wake up in the middle of the night between the hours of 1 and 3, and all I'll do is just read. We had reading rooms in the study hall, in the residence halls, where I'll just go in there. There was no distractions, no noise, just nice and quiet, just how I liked it. And I, took advantage of that time. And so that's how I found my vibe. And it worked for me throughout my 4-year program in biochemistry. Later on, I joined a study group, which is, which was great because, like you said, bouncing off ideas with, other people just to make sure that you understand what's going on. And so if you're having, time management issues, there are lots of tools out there these days that you can take advantage of. I recently found a tool that I think will be great for somebody who has a short attention span, and that's Pomodoro sessions, where you have 25 minutes of focus study, and then take a 5-minute break. Another 25 minutes of focus study, 5 minutes break. Do that 3 times, and after the 3rd time, you have a longer break and then come back and begin the cycle. And that, I think, would work as well. So yeah, that was my struggle, and that's how I overcame it.
For me, engineering school was a struggle. And I think I'm going to speak about this from a little bit of a different lens, which for me was the lack of passion and trying to figure out, like, what do I want to do? Is this the right choice for me? I think very early on, I was contemplating, I was like, should I have picked another major? Like, is this the right fit? That, I think, continued to be my struggle. But what I did tell myself very early on, I had to have a serious conversation with myself. And I reached that point of, am I continuing with this or am I out? And I told myself, there is no way I'm quitting. I will never want to say, what if I was an engineer? And so I went through the full 4 years with the determination that once I get the degree, I will find what I'm passionate about. And I think for me, the biggest thing was find your allies. For me at the time, my kind of school advisor really served as an ally to me, really helped me pick the right courses or get into the right courses or whatever it was that helped me get through those very temporary decisions that I needed to make. But in the long run, I also was able to reflect back. And I think it's something important to recognize that each of us has a very different lived experience. We all may be going through very different struggles. And I think it's important to also think about the root cause of what may be causing your struggle. Is it that feeling of feeling left out? Or is it the feeling of, you know, maybe there's something else going on in life at the time. Maybe there's just too much going on in the world right now, and that's stressful. And I think it's okay to, only when you can recognize what is causing that, can you then take the right course of action to ask for help. And just know, I think it's okay to ask for help, whether that's going to a friend, trusted, like again, a school advisor, or if that's going to, you know, a professional. We all have to take care of ourselves to be able to achieve our goals.
Well said. Let's shift now to career advice. Do you have any advice for women beginning their careers in STEM fields? Possibly something you wish you had known when you first started. Sylvia, we'll start with you, and then Erica, if you could follow up.
Sure. Mentorship is key. I've come to appreciate. And so I'd advise that, like what I wish I had growing up in my journey upstream was access to mentorship opportunities early on in my journey, such as, you know, when I was in high school, making all those decisions. And so back then, there were no guidance counselors in school. We didn't have career coaches. I feel like you guys are lucky to have that now. And so take advantage of those resources, find a mentor, find people that will, you know, like-minded people like you who are also aspiring to be in STEM, form networking groups, find some support, and take advantage of the tools and the resources that you have available to you now in your institutions. I mean, they're free. Once you're done with school, you're going to be paying for everything. So take advantage of these free resources that you have right now. And yeah, that will take you to the next level.
Yeah, I think mentorship is a wonderful thing to mention. And I wish I had also known the extent to which soft skills are skills. So, you know, when you're in high school or undergrad, your main focus is memorizing things and then being able to apply them. In graduate school, it's doing experiments, and those are considered your kind of core job responsibilities. Soft skills are things that have to do with how you implement your work. So they can be things like interpersonal communication or project management. And they're a lot harder to learn from class. You typically learn them from having a job and learning how to work with other people. And they are absolutely critical for career success. So when I was a postdoc, my advisor was given or awarded the Data Coordination Center for this big multi-center study. And he actually put me in charge of running the Data Coordination Center. And this is wildly kind of outside of what a typical postdoc's responsibilities are. But it was a fantastic experience. So we were responsible for creating a data portal. We were getting data and metadata from all these different centers. We had to process them and display that. I was managing a team of data wranglers. I had to coordinate with all these other institutions, trying to convince them to give us stuff on time and in the format we needed, running meetings, setting policy for the larger group. And I found doing that I loved it a lot more than I liked the traditional scientist path. I really liked, you know, where you're sort of competing with people and trying to get to something first. I really preferred this collaborative environment where you're figuring out how to work with other people to achieve something. And it really drove home to me that there are so many different paths in science. If you excel at, especially something like project management or getting people on board with a project or a new initiative, you can really run with that and have that be your main thing. And you may not see that as you're going through sort of like the traditional path, but it's definitely out there and you should keep your eyes open for it.
It's great advice. Oftentimes those skills are skills that we don't have experience with, or we're not comfortable leveraging them because we haven't had a lot of experience doing that. So Emma, I think this was advice you gave early on. So I'll start this question with you. Networking sounds intimidating. And what are some tips for either joining a professional association or attending a conference or just networking via social media groups that you might recommend? So we'll start with Emma and then Wardah, if you could finish up.
So networking is super important. I would say that's really how you're probably going to, but for me, that's how I've really negotiated and landed. I want to say like all the positions I've ever received is cold applying isn't that effective. So that being said, I think the best networking is if you can go to some sort of in-person meeting. And this may sound like, and sort of building off of those soft skills, they're so critical. And most people think that when you network with a scientist, you approach them and shake their hand and say, hello, I'm very interested in your research. I mean, and that's kind of course you get there, but the most important thing I think is to actually build a little bit of a interpersonal relationship. Like if you're in a line at a buffet at the conference and the food looks like it sucks, make a joke about it or something, right? Talk about something where you can form that personal connection first, because once you can kind of do that, then the talk about the science will come very naturally, and it will also make you a lot less nervous, right? So I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of young people making. There's also a lot of, if you go to these meetings, a lot of networking events, even those that the whole primary purpose is to pair young people with mentors, right? People that are in fields that they want to learn more about. So those are really great ways to do that. And then locally, there's even all kinds of meetup groups that you can leverage. So yeah, I would definitely emphasize the networking and emphasize the interpersonal nature of it. And I'm going to say one more thing so I don't drone on. So I did a lot of research about how scientists collaborate and why. And I can tell you that just like dating, they choose to work with people with whom they trust and have interpersonal chemistry. Okay, it's not necessarily about, oh, our research perfectly aligns. If that person is a jerk, they're not going to want to work with them. So the reason I bring that up is once more, if you're interested in working with somebody or getting to know them on a professional level, start with the personal level.
I was just gonna echo all of what you just said, because I think there is nothing that replaces the human connection in networking. And so I think it's very important whenever you are networking or meeting someone to just remember that they are just as human as you are. And I think forming that level of interpersonal connection first is incredibly important to be effective with whatever else that you might want to chat with them about. But also in terms of any events, things that you want to go to, networking opportunities you want to go to, the other point I would just really make is sign up and show up. Sometimes I think we have the ability to self-eliminate ourselves from opportunities. And I think it's just important to never second guess, do I belong in that room? Do I belong in that space? Make sure that we are, that you are not self-eliminating yourself from a room, from a space, from a conversation, from an opportunity to meet someone. And I think that in addition to that, the one other thing I would just mention is because we, and again, I work in DC, because we're so close to this area, if there are folks that are interested in specific events or specific policy issues where you do want to end up applying your technical background to, there's all these think tanks that exist and that are working on all these tech issues too. And it's very easy to just do a quick Google search to see what research exists out there, who are the experts focusing on XYZ topic, who is out there that you could potentially have a coffee with. And because we, again, are so close to that, DC has this network culture, it will not be weird to approach someone and be like, can I have a few minutes of your time?
Great advice. I also would just add, and coloring a little bit to what each of you have shared, is that in any of those engagements, I think it's important to always be your authentic self. We all have a unique experience, a unique lived experience. We may have a place that we're from, or a favorite pet, or a favorite athletic team, or a sports team, or a favorite movie. And those are oftentimes the smallest of icebreakers that can start the most meaningful conversations. But just to always show up as authentically curious and authentically who you are, that's always helpful. So Erica and Emma, we'll target this question to the two of you. How do you find new professional connections in your field? How have your professional connections impacted your career trajectory?
So I think echoing a lot of what they said, conferences are really important. Just walking up to somebody and trying to meet them in person is really, really important. I actually really struggle with this. I'm shy, and I don't like to talk to people about work. I'm okay making small talk, but I struggle with it. And so when I'm in that situation, because it's so important, I try to like channel people that I know who are really excellent at it and just pretend like I am. Actually, the one person that really inspires me is the manager of our sister lab at work. And she is just so bold about reaching out. If she has a question about a technology, she emails a person and asks a question. And she'll send me an email and say, I miss you. I want to get coffee and we'll catch up. And that took me aback the first time because it was so vulnerable. But it meant that, you know, we got coffee and we meet regularly and get to know each other as people. And now our groups collaborate in a way that we had never done before. And it makes our work go much better. If that's too intimidating, they sometimes have things like hackathons where you can work with people on a project in a short amount of time and build trust in that way. And then having your bosses, when you get to that point, or your professors, introduce you to people that they know is really important, especially if you're looking for a job in another city where you may not have as many connections, because they may have a lead or an idea for you. And in many cases, you know, it benefits them to help place you in a position, you know, if you do good work, that's another connection that they have there now too.
So just to beat a dead horse, professional societies are very good for meeting, making new connections. Also leverage your existing networks. If you can find somebody who, like I know these social media sites, right? Your LinkedIn will often show you mutual connections, right? Even if you can just, if there's somebody you want to meet, if you discover that you both know Sarah, right? Sarah can send an email of introduction, or you can CC her on the email where you're saying, hey, I'm really interested in chatting with you about X, Y, and Z. And we all get so much email, so much junk. And, you know, coming out of the blue, something like that email might be really easy to ignore. But the fact that you both know Sarah, and now Sarah is on the email, it kind of adds this little edge of accountability, right? So that person is probably now going to get back to you. And they are also thinking, oh, well, they know Sarah. Sarah's sort of vouching for them. So you've got to leverage those networks. Also, your school networks, right? So who you went to grad school with. So I landed my consulting job because I knew one of the people that was hiring also went to UNC Chapel Hill. So I emailed them and said, hey, I'm interested in this. And that was a great in. Also, you know, I mentioned professional scientific societies. There's also a lot of local societies, especially like in Maryland, because there's so much biotech going on around here, that you can become part of those societies and meet a lot of new people that way. And that's especially good for, if you're looking for, say, a job, you can meet somebody from, Frederick National Laboratory, right? Who might be able to say, hey, I know of this internship for this position. So those are just some ways you can leverage professional societies, local societies, and do some social media stalking responsibly to maybe find out who those mutual connections might be.
Great advice. I often heard someone say once, who was an introvert, that they can be a functional extrovert. A functional extrovert. When I need to be, I can be one. All right. So Sylvia, we'll pitch this question to you. In what way are you a different person today because of a mentor in your life?
5 words. Okay. A mentor I have once uttered 5 words to me, and those 5 words included my name, so my name and 4 other words, but they were, Sylvia, you can do it. That was it. It was at a time when I was going through a struggle, and we're having a chat, and she just said, Sylvia, you can do it. And that was all I needed to hear. That jolted me out of my self-doubt into a place of self-confidence, and I overcame that struggle. And so I'd just like to say that I feel like everybody needs to have their own personal cheerleader, i.e. a mentor, if you wish. It's just somebody in your corner cheerleading for you, giving you all the motivation, inspiration, challenging you, uplifting you, to want you to be a better version of yourself. And so, we've all said this, find a mentor, find like-minded people like you, like-minded people, who want to, be better and go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So in my case, I think my graduate school experience really shaped who I am now. So I joined the lab of this very charismatic, confident professor who explicitly wanted to run his group like a startup. So he wanted it to have a flat structure. Everybody was contributing. And we were pursuing really exciting and cutting edge science. And he expected each of us to be pursuing our own careers with the same level of ambition and confidence that he had. And for me, that was not like a natural state, but it really helped me grow into that and push me towards that, out of my comfort zone. And in particular, one time we were saying something like, well, we're just graduate students, like somebody else probably knows this better than us. And he said, you guys are the experts in this particular topic. By virtue of thinking and reading so much about this very niche idea, you are the person in the world who now knows the most about it. And it really gave us all this idea of like, why couldn't we achieve it? What's stopping us? And it was really important because it was only a 2-year-old lab and we didn't have anything up and running. And we really took some risks that I think maybe we wouldn't have done if we had known more. So my project was in El Salvador, and we were collecting human and animal fecal microbiota, soil, water, and latrine samples, and looking at the microbial communities. And we had started this project, and then as it turns out, to import those types of samples into the US requires 4 different import permits from 3 different federal agencies. So I spent tons of time on the phone with people filling out paperwork. I learned to use a fax machine to get the paperwork to them. But we got it done and we were able to do this really great study. And as a result of that lab experience and that environment, I think it really switched my mindset from like, I can't do it or I don't know how to do it to I don't know how to do it yet. And I'm faced all the time with data that people give me or projects that people give me that I've never seen before. But I have a better sense now that like with the tools available to us, I can probably get up to speed on that pretty quickly. And you have to be honest with people about it too, but it really, it's a great mindset to have.
Excellent. So mentorship is critically important. So this question, How do you ask someone to be your professional mentor? Sylvia, you can do it.
Yes, I can do it. So firstly, I think mentorship can happen organically, okay? Where you already know somebody, you're comfortable with the person. It could be your manager or a teacher, where you're comfortable enough that you open up and the relationship evolves organically. So it's not forced and it's not planned, okay? And that way you open up such that you don't fear judgment, you know, that kind of thing. But I feel like if you have to ask somebody to be your mentor, I think, Erica, you said it, it could be somebody you already know, okay, in your existing network, like your favorite teacher, okay? You already know your favorite teacher, you're comfortable with them. And if they can't act in the capacity of being your mentor, they already have that existing network where they can find somebody to be your mentor. So yeah, mentorship can even happen organically. I follow people on LinkedIn that I consider to be my mentor. I've never asked anybody to be my mentor, but I have mentors and that relationship has evolved organically to the extent that I'm happy with the relationship.
So I've had a lot of professional mentors, and it's sort of come about a couple different ways. As I mentioned before, sometimes you can find programs that will formally set you up with a mentor, which is great because it takes a lot of the awkwardness out of it, right? It's already done, and that you know that person is invested in probably meeting with you on a regular basis. So that's sort of an easier way. Another way might be if there's somebody that you think is a rock star and you really want them to mentor you. I think it's really awkward if you say, will you agree to become my mentor? Like, that's not really what you do. You kind of slide into it, right? So maybe you say, hey, I'm really interested in this. I'd like to get some advice. Do you think we could meet for coffee or meet over a Zoom or something? And then you kind of see how it goes. And again, I'm going to lean on the interpersonal dynamic. You might discover that person's a jerk and you really don't want to meet with them. That happens, right? But if you feel like you guys are vibing, right? Then at the end of that meeting, you might say, hey, would you mind if we met once a month or every 2 weeks or so that I can bounce some ideas off of you? And if they're open to it, they'll say, yeah, sure, that would be great. Now you've got yourself a mentor, right? So those are sort of really two ways that you can go about it.
Excellent. So let's flip the script just a little bit, and Wardah, we'll start with you on this one. As someone who has mentored graduate students and young professionals, how has the experience as a mentor impacted your own research and career?
So as we know, one of the organizers of this event is Women to Women mentorship. Thank you. We had, I discovered them about a year ago and had the opportunity to mentor some young women in STEM. And I hope that you all know that how much in a mentorship relationship a mentor receives from the mentee. And some of that is actually just very simple things like hope, optimism. I am more hopeful for our future by just meeting people like yourselves. I also actually want to introduce this group to a concept that already exists, which is called reverse mentorship. And once I actually helped stand up that program at the State Department in a specific office, where essentially in a normal mentor-mentee relationship, the younger mentee would be the mentor, the older mentor would be the mentee, because realizing that you all have an experience to share with those mentors that they never experienced, realizing that time that has elapsed, those mentors may not know the challenges that you all are going through when you're trying to enter a space or enter a career. So there is actually a value and a perspective that you all have that maybe your mentors don't have, and could basically learn from your experience. So there is, I would just say, whenever you go into mentorship, remember that you also have something to offer to that relationship.
That is.
Rachel knows. This is Phoebe and Chandler and Joey.
I'm never
Oh,
around.
we have friends playing.
The deal. Rachel comes
I'll
home.
take care of it.
So
Somebody online needs to put themselves on mute. They're multitasking.
So as you mentioned, I think it's so encouraging to work with younger people who are really excited. It's contagious. And that's one reason I decided I wanted to come back to teaching, because I love ideas and I love how excited young people get about science. And it just makes me glow. I also really enjoy it because I don't know, I guess everyone, some of you folks have kids. I don't have children. So I kind of really like the family dynamic also that comes along with that. And so that's sort of how I get some of that maternal instinct out, that and my pets. So, so that's a very short answer, but I also get an immense sense of pride when those people I've mentored went off. And so one of the undergrads I mentored at UNC Chapel Hill, she's like now at Harvard in public health. And I'm like, yeah, girl, like go get it. Awesome. So.
Yeah, there's no greater joy, that's for sure, as a teacher. So this question, I think we have all sort of touched on it a little bit in our introductions, responses. It's about this concept of imposter syndrome. You know, like, did you hear that? Did you hear that audible groan in the audience? It's apparently not just us. Yet this is a thing. This is a thing for sure. And I think for many women, it erodes self-confidence. It erodes the trust in ourselves and our capabilities. And it's something that is genuine and it's real, no matter if you're in high school or college or a college president. Right, there are those moments when you really feel like I am a fraud and somebody's going to bust in this door any minute and just bust me. I do not deserve to be in this room. Everybody else is smarter than me, more accomplished than me. It's a toxic internal dialogue that we have with ourselves. So I would love Erica and Wardah to get the two of you to start the conversation there and talk about how that looks for you and how you break through that self-doubt.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that it never really goes away. My mother retired a couple of years ago at sort of the height of her career, and she said it just never went away, and you just sort of carry it with you. I try to reframe it a little bit. So thinking about how exciting it is to be surrounded by other people who are really great at their careers, and then also sort of that, like, you know, ideally you're kind of riding the crest of your skills and experience level. You're operating at sort of the peak of what you can do. And if you're not being, and that will make you feel uncomfortable, like a lot of people have said, if you're not feeling uncomfortable, you may not being, you're possibly not being challenged. And so that's helping you grow. But I think it's also really nice to have events like this where you can hear from other women about times where they doubted and then just push through. Our great strength, I think, is that we can be, when we're comfortable being vulnerable, and we're able to connect with other people because of that. And so leveraging that helps a little bit too.
So I've answered questions on imposter syndrome a lot, and today I'm going to take a little bit of a different route to it. It's no surprise, in most place spaces I've been in DC and elsewhere, chances are I'm the only person who looks like me. I recognize I am different. I recognize I am the daughter of immigrants. I am a Muslim American who has, no one in my family has ever pursued a career in government. I recognize all of that change in my own family's history. But it's me kind of being in a space where my family has never been in before. But that being said, me being different doesn't make me an imposter. And I truly, at this point in my career now, I am questioning my institution and my environment for making me feel like an imposter. Because I know that I have to tell myself, I belong. I belong. I am here. And I say to all of you to please say that to yourself, that you belong and you are here. Because these spaces will make you question whether or not you belong. They will make you question whether or not you are meant to be there. But I truly ask of you to just make sure that you know that that space you hold is yours to hold and no one else's. And I think for me, my question on imposter syndrome that you posed to me, I actually will take this moment to ask it to the institutions we work in. I don't feel like an imposter. I feel like I belong. But why do you make me feel like one? Why do you see me as an imposter?
One that always works for me, and again, none of us are immune to this at any stage in our career. Mine is, you picked me. That's mine. You, in those moments, I'm like, well, this is what you got. You pick this. So let's work it. And I'm grateful every single day. So the last couple of questions, and then we'll open it up to audience questions. And again, just reminding those who are joining us virtually, please include your questions in the chat. And if you would like to ask a specific panelist a direct question, please include their name in your question. So this question, Emma and Erica, will ask you to respond. What kept you going in a challenging time when maybe it didn't seem possible to achieve your career aspirations?
Go first. So I had my second child last year. And when she was 4 months old, my wife had to go back to work. We both did. And she had to immediately start traveling. She's a consultant and she was gone multiple days a week, almost every week. And we didn't know where or for how long until it happened, basically. So I was trying to balance a full-time job with caring for an infant and a 2-year-old. I was still pumping and they're not sleeping through the night. And it was really, really hard. And it was really the first time in my career that the question wasn't, what do I want next? Or, what are my goals? But is it really feasible for me to be working full-time right now? And I think what got us through it is older women in particular saying, it doesn't last forever. They're only little for a little while. You got to push through it. That was very helpful. And I think we also, my wife would have good communication and we were able to talk about it and say, it's not working for our family. And she's actually looking for new jobs right now to find a lifestyle that will fit for us better. I will say one thing that really helped was the ability to work partially remote during that. It gave me flexibility that I wouldn't have had otherwise. But to get that privilege, you really have to build your brand ahead of time. People have to be able to trust that you get work done if you're not there in front of them. And so, as you're planning for your future, think about that and think about how you can set yourself up to have these additional flexibilities if the time comes when you need them.
Is this on? Yeah. So we're all going to encounter difficulties in our lives, and plans are great, but don't get too set on them. So about in the span of like a year, 2 years, my husband was diagnosed with a serious illness. my startup was encountering all sorts of difficulties, and then I got laid off. So stuff's going to happen to you. And the first thing that you need to know is it's okay to not be okay. And I think that during those difficult times, you need to learn that, and I learned the hard way, you have to prioritize your mental health. And if you don't do that, it's going to sneak up on you. And so the first thing I did during that time was like, okay, I need to take care of my head so that I can take care of everything else. I went to a therapist, and it wasn't necessarily like, tell me about your feelings, but it was like, here, I'm going to give you a toolkit that you can use every day to help yourself get through this. And just doing those things made me able to really get through it. The day that I got laid off, my husband came home and there was this massive pile of topsoil in the driveway. I love to garden, so I was like, I'm going to just shovel and shovel and shovel. Right. And that was sort of part of my self-care of like, I'm just going to do this, work through my feelings and figure out what the next step is. And that sort of leads me back to where I got to this crossroads where I was like, well, here I am. What do I want to do? And I think you have to kind of find your joy and follow it. And that's really what has gotten me, really inspired me to keep going. So take care of yourself. It's okay to not be okay, right? Take care of your head and then follow your joy.
Great advice. Asking for help is the bravest thing we can do, leaning on our structures around us. So this is the last prepared question. I want to ask each of you, what is one pearl of wisdom or piece of advice you have received that significantly impacted your career path or your choices? And Sylvia, we'll start with you and work through the panel.
Sure. For me, it's active listening. And I learned that during Skillsoft training, when I became a manager, I use active listening daily in my work. I prioritize it, and it has served me well in my daily routine. Stephen Covey said it best when he said that the problem with communication today is that we do not listen to understand, but we listen to respond. All right, and that's not active listening. Active listening is listening intentionally, so you understand, the information completely to be able to make sound, informed decisions, which impact not only individuals, but, the team in my case. And so, yeah, that has served me well in my daily routine, active listening.
The best advice I've ever received is very simple. You'll figure it out. You don't know what life's going to throw at you, and you can talk to your mentors. Oh, how do I handle having a career and kids? And how do I do this? And how do I do that? And you can plan and plan and plan. But at the end of the day, you have to take a look at your options that are in front of you and make a decision. And a lot of times you have no idea what those options are even going to be. You just have to have faith in yourself that when I get to that point, I'm going to figure it out.
I'm going to give credit to my parents here, I think. So a lot of people have mentioned sort of the struggle, that the tension between their expectations of you and what you wanted to do. And so when I was in high school, the line that they always told us was, find something you're passionate about and you'll never work a day in your life. And then definitely take out student loans. And so I was not that interested in science, actually. I was good at it. I was in programs for math and science, but I really loved history and literature. My parents were chemists and they were a little conservative, and they said, you don't go into that. There are so few jobs in those fields. You need to be able to pay the bills. And I didn't want to listen to them. No one else was, but I thought maybe there was something to it. And so I went to UVA, majored in biology. And I found a niche of that I really love. But while I was there too, my senior year, the 2008 financial crisis happened. And suddenly we were all really, really, jealous of the ROTC kids who had a job that they had to go to when they graduated. And I think what I took from that is that like your career doesn't have to be your destiny. It doesn't have to be the one thing that you've been meant to do from infancy. It's okay for it to be something that you like and that you are proud of doing. When you look at your contributions, you're proud of it. And that's especially true, I think, when times are scary like this. Having a good job, having that sort of security means safety and protection for your family. And I think that's something that it's worth keeping in mind too.
That I'm just going to echo real quick to not let your career become your identity. Very healthy, I think. My advice, I think, is kind of leaning in on faith a little bit. And I truly have always believed that what is yours will be yours. I don't think anyone in my generations could have imagined the trajectory of our family and kind of where their great granddaughter or granddaughter would have ended up. So I truly do have faith in at the path that we all take or we walk, like there is something out there that is specifically meant for you. And so because of that, the way I've operated is less so in competing with my peers. I love to recognize the talents of my peers, the skills of my peers, kind of echoing some of the earlier stuff, the interpersonal connections we've talked about. But I do want to say the only person I'm competing with is with myself from yesterday. And that means literally focusing on improvement, constant self-improvement, leading with humility, leading with, I can be better. I'm not perfect. I will make mistakes. I do want to be better than I was yesterday. And I think when you take inspiration, you can take inspiration from not only mentors, we've talked a lot about mentors, don't forget to take inspiration from your peers, from those around you. They can also be a source of inspiration. So that's, I think, where I will leave it at is just, compete with yourself.
All great advice. Let's thank our panelists before we open it up for questions. So if you're in the live audience, please queue up at one of the microphones on the left and right and just track up and down the steps, if you will. And we'll begin our questions for our panelists. Virtual attendees, if you've submitted your questions, we'll ask one of our attendants here to start those questions off for us if we have them on hand.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm representing the virtual attendees, and the first question we have is, what advice would you give to recent graduates or professionals who, due to disruptions like the pandemic, enabling lack of research experience or recent public health funding cuts, are currently out of their field? How can they stay competitive, make up for those disruption effects, and keep up with their field?
I may not be able to speak to this as well, but I think it's a really difficult time, and using this opportunity to build on new skills that you may not have had before. So there are a lot of free classes that are available through like Coursera, and in terms of getting technical skills, that's a really great opportunity for it.
Yeah, I would echo that. I'm sort of your poster child here for that happening, right? All the craziness. And so, yeah, I'm sort of pivoting, right, to do something else that I really enjoy. So pivoting is always good. And as she mentioned, retraining, there's a lot of excellent certifications that you can get online that would actually make you really appealing in this job market. So doing a little research on that would definitely be, I can go more into detail later, but I'm going to be succinct. So yes, online certifications and things like that would be useful.
And I think you just mentioned it, and I think I was going to just say too, it's a difficult time acknowledging there's some things that have just been beyond our control right now. I may still be in government, but I am around a lot of people that also have to deal with the reality of the situation and even with the prospect of a potential pivot. And so I think what I have noticed, though, there's a big sense of community right now because there's a lot of folks who may be in the same boat as the person who did ask the question. And I just encourage, maybe this is the opportunity to leverage the community, leverage the network, leverage where people might be able to help you potentially either pivot to or find opportunities in what you were actually interested in doing.
Definitely. Adding to what Wardah said, just staying connected with your networks as well. You know, if you have people on LinkedIn, staying connected, speaking out, talking about what's going on and being open and transparent. And you never know where your help is going to come from. Just letting people know your struggles and what you're going through, and who knows what opportunities might come through speaking up.
I would be remiss if I didn't say Hood has an array of badge and micro-credential programs. Just call me. Helen.
Hello, I'm Maya, a senior from Frederick High School, and I was wondering, because some of you mentioned obtaining education from outside of the United States, how would you say it has affected your opinions on both your career in science and on the US's relationship with science as a whole?
Let's repeat the question. So being educated outside of the United States, yeah, what's the second part?
How it affected your career in science and how you feel about the relationship with the US and science. And how it
Okay. So when I transitioned here, it was a rough time. I mean, I didn't know how I was going to start, but like I said before, just staying connected with your peers. And so when I came here, there was a teaching assistant that I kept in touch with from university. He was here, he was living in North Carolina at the time, but of course we didn't have LinkedIn and all of that, but we stayed connected through email. So I did contact him through email, and we started talking, and I didn't even know what search terms to put in trying to find a job. You know, biochemistry is a broad field and could take you anywhere. And so he sort of guided me with the system here. He was like, no, you have to get your accreditation from the World Education Service or whatever, having your transcript from Ghana being transcribed into the US system. And, you know, he sort of helped me get to the point where I could, you know, find search terms to put in quality control jobs and stuff like that. And so just keeping connected with your network, wherever you're coming from, staying connected with the people that you knew back home. It's easy to say, oh, okay, I'm in the US, and so I'll just, you know, fish out for, you know, professional network organizations within the US because they can get me to where I want to go. But staying connected with the people that you knew, your tribe, you know, just staying connected and then finding a new tribe here as well. And that's how, you know, I was able to navigate through that, of course, staying connected, yes.
So considering that this is a women in science talk, how do you suggest to deal with men in science who may try to undermine or silence women's voices?
I'll reference my story from earlier, which is a great example of imposter syndrome. A lot of those folks who I thought were going to be genetic whizzes were men who were very overly confident and verbose. And turns out I was smarter than they were. So I guess what I want to say is, number one, don't fall for it, right? Don't feel like the imposter. Like, have that grit and determination and assert yourself. And number two, getting outside of your comfort zone, right? I think it's important that you interact with a wide variety of people and sort of get used to those types of interactions, right? Where, and sort of practice, if that makes sense. I know some people, for example, will be giving a poster session, and maybe somebody comes to their poster and they feel like they're being very overbearing, and it's a scary experience. I know some women who've had that experience with some men who are kind of overbearing, and they sort of needed to get that practice and really get that confidence, right? So it's uncomfortable, but I want to say, like, get practice standing up for yourself and just say, like, I've got this, right? So I think it's uncomfortable, but when I was putting myself in those situations, I got a little bit more used to it and used to those conversations. I learned how to, like, if they were kind of being disrespectful, I learned how to retort in a way that was polite and appropriate and put them in their place. So I think you just have to learn those battle skills. I don't know if anyone else wants to say anything like that.
I appreciate the question. And I think also just kind of highlighting, it's not just men who need to be responsible when they're around women, but also other women need to be responsible around women too. So I think generally for me, it's, you never know it when it took me a very long time to get to the point of being able to stand up for myself. And I think my background is, again, daughter of immigrant parents who kept their head down, worked really, really hard to get to where they were. And that's then gets transferred down a generation. And then now I have to now deal with what I was raised with versus how do you survive in environments as the first and then be undermined. And so I have reached the point, and I recognize that showing grace, it takes time. When something feels wrong, chances are what happened is wrong. And it's okay to say how you feel. If you can't speak up for yourself, I also encourage people to write how you felt and then ask for help if needed. But there is, I think, the one thing that really helped me early on in my career when I didn't know how to say, please, it was believing in myself and my own abilities and not letting anyone make me doubt that.
And I think this is wonderful advice. You do have to learn to stand up for yourself. It's really tiring. And so I think to the extent possible, if you can find people that support you in doing that, it goes a long way. So my PhD mentor was a man, very confident, attracted confident people to his lab. But you may have been able to tell, I'm really just physically soft-spoken. If he saw that somebody was talking over me, would stop them and let me say it. And I feel like it can be any type of person, but surrounding yourself in particular with mentors who stand up for you too is really valuable in helping you sort of fight that.
That's great. So I see a long line on both sides. I will just remind you that if we don't get to everyone, there will be time to continue the conversation with the panelists at the networking reception. So Helen, let's come to a question on your end.
We have one here from the virtual audience.
Sorry, thank you.
And this maybe echoes some of the answers that you already gave. What are effective ways to address gender-based discrimination when it's perpetuated by someone who is also a woman, especially in spaces where she holds authority? Keeping solidarity in mind, how do you respond?
Call out a woman. It's okay to call out a woman. I think it's okay to be a voice for equity. It's okay to be a voice for your rights. It's okay to tell anyone, regardless of who they are, if you are being mistreated, what they are doing is wrong. And I am sorry if you are ever in that situation. I am sorry to you that you are put in the situation where you have to carry the burden to speak up for yourself because someone else couldn't behave.
Helen?
I'm Caitlin. I'm from Carroll Community College. There we go. I'm Caitlin. I'm from Carroll Community College. My question is really for anybody, anybody who has like a specific insight on this. But what is something you did as a scientist or someone in STEM or technology that helped you stand out in different, like, whether it's interview processes or academic applications or something like that?
Helped you stand out?
Number one, and this, I should have mentioned this with the discussion of networking and finding mentors. Always ask, how can I help? So if you're going to go to a meeting, if you're going to go to a scientific society, if you're going to a networking event, say, hey, what do you need help with? Do you need help putting this thing together? I mean, number one, it's a good thing to do, but number two, that also endears you to folks. And let's just trust my mind. I had a point number two. Somebody else answer and I'll come back.
How do you stand out?
Number two, sorry, I just remembered. I just needed a minute. Number two, apply for awards. They're a great way, they're great lines in your CV. And I mean, the worst thing that's going to happen is you don't get it, but you're on people's radars, right? And so I'm talking about awards from various places. Maybe it's your high school, maybe it's your college, maybe it's a scientific society. I know Society of Toxicology has so many awards for undergrads. They love undergrads. And if you get some award like that, even if it's just like, hey, I want to come and learn about this thing, then people will recognize you and know you'll become a known entity. So there we go.
You're fine. So for me, when I had to apply to University of Maryland, College Park for public health, it was my first time writing what do you call those letters? When you have to write a letter, your college letter, the essay, yeah, to get you into college. And I was talking to my uncle who was a professor in Chicago, and he was like, so what have you done, that you can highlight in the essay? And then my mind took me back to the third year in my biochemistry program where we had a health outreach program. So as students, we went into the neighboring community to talk to the residents, if you may, about good sanitation, disease prevention. This was a malaria prevalent community. So we talked to them about how to prevent, malaria, using mosquito nets, making sure there's no standing water around for breeding. And so that was like, my uncle was, he was wild. He was like, why isn't that highlighted on your college essay application? And so, yeah, that made me feel great. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I added that and I made it into the program. So that's something you can, I guess, learn from.
Oh, are we done? Okay, well, wants to end this.
Well, recognizing that we're, we want to keep on time, I want to give everyone, including yourselves in this panel, a final round of applause. What an awesome, awesome opportunity. I really enjoyed listening to the panel. You all interacted with each other in such an amazing way. It's like we planned it or something. Yeah. But I really appreciate, all of you being here. After this event, you'll get a follow-up email with interesting information from all of our partners. But I think one of the big takeaways that we learned today is that as a final call of action, we should commit to each other, right? I think we learned a lot today about committing to ourselves, believing in ourselves, owning the space that we belong in, meeting new people, building those networks. So if, when you have the opportunity to do that, take some of the things that you learned from our amazing panel here and put that into real life, right? Take that into the next step, take that into your next part of your journey, and really own that and really become a part of that. So as you all, take off for the day, thank you all for coming. Safe travels. Thank you to folks online. If you're able to stick around, we'll have our panelists around, our partners in the back. So thank you all so much and have a great weekend.